Why do you think mistreatment from others hurts us so deeply?
I think it's because a lot of the time people don't like to sit with the fact that they're being mistreated, or they tend to perceive mistreatment as, oh, they're my friends, so I'm just gonna kind of continue working with that. I also think that people who are mistreated often like to try to run away from too many things that are good, so they'll tend to kind of replace mistreatment as it being normal, and so that kind of leads to a lot of like chronic suffering that happens, and people just not really enjoying their lives anymore.
How do you rebuild your mental health after someone or something torn you apart?
Well, the first step is realizing that you have an issue. It's a matter of going in and finding someone that you trust, whether that's a mental health professional, a friend, or just someone that creates a safe space, telling them their issue, but then not trying to sugarcoat it. So just kind of living with that reality, not necessarily blowing past certain problems based off like the language you use or based off how you think, but just sitting with that problem and finding someone who can sit through it with you and then actually help you work through the problem instead of around it. Because the more you defer around the problem, the worse it gets.
Beautiful. Yeah. I think, definitely like you said, like you have to acknowledge like there actually is an issue and like it's deeper than just like a surface level and it's actually tearing you apart. What's something you remind yourself of when your mental health is low?
The fact that there is always a solution. There's always a solution with whether that's talking to someone, whether that's using coping mechanisms that you've learned professionally or through yourself. Just really the fact that sitting through the conflict will really help out, and listening to your body. If your body tells you that something's maybe not right, to really just kind of listen to that and kind of establish the fact that your mind and body are so purposefully connected between one another, and really just kind of understanding that there will always be a solution that you might not necessarily see. And often the problem isn't what you think it is.
Yeah. And I feel like the biggest thing, something I always have to remind myself is that you're not like the only person that's going through something like this. Like the first person this has ever happened to. Like there are so many people out there with they're going through the same situation. Kind of realizing like there are people who have been through it and they have gone through it. So you're not going like on your own kind of struggle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there is a solution, and it will get better. What's the difference between being emotionally strong and genuinely hurting?
Being emotionally strong is recognizing that you have a problem and working through that would help. And genuinely hurting is when you're just kind of sitting with an issue you never really knew you had. Being emotionally strong is not necessarily putting your head down and using work as a drug to help out with stress and coping mechanisms and your problems, but it's more just a matter of saying that you have a problem and saying that you're willing to gain the skills to make you stronger. And then just hurting is like, it's just realizing that you have a problem and understanding how it makes you feel and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like people label it as just being like, you got to be emotionally strong, so they'll kind of just tell themselves like, it's all right. I feel like being emotionally strong is when it's like something smaller and you take action and you know it will pass. That's being emotionally strong and overcoming that. And genuinely hurting is like when it's like not just a small thing, when it's actually hurting your life and taking up like a lot of your days and like a lot of your thoughts. I'd say that's like actually hurting. How do you think mistreating someone affects their self-worth and their ability to trust them?
Oh, good question. I think it's a matter of when they become used to always be put down, used to kind of having those bad relations with people, they tend to think that that's normal, and so they tend to associate their self-worth with what much.
Yeah, and I think like with like the trust again, I feel like if they did build a connection with you and you kind of start going against that and mistreat them, I feel like it kind of affects like their further connection. Like they don't want to open up as much with you here. Yeah, I think just kind of being like very open and like accepting what people tell you and like living up to what they expect. Do you think if it wasn't for people's fear of judgment, a lot more people would reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because a lot of people tend to not sit with their own problems, so they tend to try to externalize their problems on other people. And ultimately, the people who judge or are being judged know that they have an issue, but tend to focus on the wrong problem at hand.
Yeah, and I think like a big reason is like reaching out, like announcing to someone else that there is a problem can make people feel like they're less, and because other people like aren't telling them their problems, so they feel like they shouldn't tell other people their problems. And so I feel like just finding people like you trust, and like I promise there are people out there, even if it is kind of hard, there is people out there who will sit and listen and like help you and get through stuff. I found a lot of people that help me with that, and so just genuinely reaching out, just like knowing like even though it's gonna be uncomfortable, it's like the only way to be comfortable again in your own skin.
Yeah, and the bigger thing that I really like about working with people is what makes somebody's day is just sitting with them and saying me too, and just listening. Because often what you probably need if you're going through something hard is just somebody to listen instead of somebody to give you advice. Because very rarely do you actually need advice when they want to talk to someone that they trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just the reaching out, because nothing will change if you don't change anything. If you kind of just wait around for time to pass, time won't solve anything. It will kind of just stretch it out and make it worse, I guess. It will just create like more thoughts in your head.
Yeah, more thoughts equals less action, my friends.